Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Welcome to the Mayoral Memo podcast. While the normal host, Mark Barnes, is away over the Christmas break, I've taken the opportunity to interview the councillors individually about their first year with the new council. 23rd of December 2021 was the day that the new council was sworn in and inducted, and the councillor interviews were conducted within a few days either side of the 1 year anniversary of that date. The process was straightforward. I invited all of the other 9 councillors to be a guest on the Mayoral Memo podcast. I then created 10 questions that explored some information about each councillor and about their first year in the role. Feedback was provided by the councillors on those questions, and, after some modifications, all guests were then asked those identical questions. Each councillor sat down with me in my makeshift studio at home and asked them each of the 10 questions, plus a bonus anything else question. I am publishing 2 of those interviews each week in reverse alphabetical order, and the Mayoral Memo podcast will then resume as normal when Mark Barnes returns from holidays. I hope you enjoy the insight into the minds of our councillors. This week we have Damien Mahon and Richard Ivey. I'm sitting with Councillor Damien Mahon. Damien was elected from the East Ward in December 2021, so another first-time councillor we've got here. So how are you going today, Damien?
I'm really well, Matthew. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So I've got 10 questions for you, or 11 questions actually. So the first question is, what motivated you to stand for council elections in December 2021?
Well, really, it was never on my radar, local government, and it was, I guess I was an observer over the last couple of years, and I was getting feedback from people right around the country asking me what's going on with your council there in Dubbo, the headlines and the sort of negative connotations around. I just thought Dubbo's reputation was being dragged through the mud a fair bit, so I thought, well, maybe I can help here. You know, I think if people don't step off their comfort zone and go and help, they can be part of the problem as much as being part of the solution. So, it was a little bit of I had some approaches from a few people that had either previously been councillors or felt that I could maybe add something as a councillor, and at the end of the day I thought, well, why not? We'll give it a crack and see how we go.
And obviously a proud Dubbo person, when you heard Dubbo's name not being talked about in the greatest way, obviously that has an impact on you individually as a person because you're probably proud of Dubbo.
Oh, absolutely. And Dubbo's just come on in leaps and bounds. I've been here just on 30 years now, and the way that it's going and the things that are happening going forward in Dubbo with so much opportunity coming along, I just could see that the last thing we needed was bad publicity from our top people in the town when it comes to leadership, showing the way, and just general how we need to take such a vibrant place and make it go forward.
Yeah. How would you describe your most enjoyable aspect of being a councillor?
I'm probably a little bit selfish here, but I've really enjoyed the opportunity for sort of personal development around that whole learning about the local government process, how it actually works. It was something I'd never spent much time on in my whole life, really. I probably... The old saying, you don't know what you don't know, that certainly rang true for me, and it's been a real eye-opener, and I feel I've learned a hell of a lot in 12 months just around how that whole government process works. Been lucky enough to go to a couple of the local government conference and then a National Roads Congress in Tasmania, and it's really speaking a different language, but one which I'm really understanding quicker than I thought I would. And it's quite interesting to see how the whole thing rounds out. I get very impressed with the level of planning that goes into just about everything that we look at, and particularly how far out that planning reaches sometimes, 2040, 2050, and the long-term thinking of what the town's going to look like. where the roads need to be, et cetera, the population shifts. I'm finding it very, very interesting. So, as I say, a little bit selfish, but that's what I've really enjoyed this year.
And of course, I know you've done the Australian Institute of Company Directors course previously, which gives you that really good grounding in governance and obviously your business background as well. But it does have some similarities to the AICD process as well around that governance, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And it is a big beast, the Local Government Act, and the amount of, like probably from a private business person like yourself, some frustrations at times of just how slow things have to move because you've got so many hoops that you need to jump through or the staff need to put through the process to make things happen. But I guess it's all there for a reason. And
I think that's right. One of my frustrations when I first became a councillor was how slow it was taking to get things done because I knew the answer. I knew what I wanted to achieve. Now, why don't we just go and do that? But what I learned was that I'm not dealing with my money. If I'm dealing with my money in my business and it doesn't go perfectly or I get something wrong, then I'm the only one to lose out. But when I'm dealing with your money or the community's money, you've got to take that slower process and make sure the community's on for the ride. And you really can't afford to have those little mishits. You've got to make sure that everything's either okay or successful or fantastic. You just can't afford to have those little misses which you might have in business.
Yep, that's exactly right. And when you came back to the governance thing, it's one part in the business where, as you said, it's your money. You can make a decision and implement it tomorrow morning. Where in our role now, we're caretakers of the people's palace, if you like. So we've got to make sure that money, when it's spent, is done accordingly and following all the rules and regulations and with the input from the constituents.
What are council's greatest achievements this year?
I think personally the lifting of the performance improvement order from the local government minister was a bit of a highlight, and I do acknowledge that the previous council did address a lot of those issues towards the end of their term, but obviously to have that lifted officially mid-year was a good sign, I guess, that we're heading in the right direction. And the other, what I thought was a great achievement for a new body of councillors, was our councillors absolutely vigorously engaged with the process of the induction process. It was quite a robust induction program, and I think it showed early in the piece that everybody was there for the right reason. They all jumped in, and I think most councillors went to almost every workshop, particularly the ones they could get to. But I think it showed a real willingness to learn and understand what the role contains, and I guess learning how to work within the Local Government Act and all the rules and regulations around that with the guidance of the people that we work with.
If anyone was half-hearted, that would have flushed them out, wouldn't it? Because they were fairly heavy on to begin with, and we were loaded up with a lot of induction programs to begin with. So if you really weren't committed to the role, you would have put the white flag up and said, you know what, I'm out of here. So no one did that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think that was a key point in the performance improvement order was the induction process for new councillors. And they inundated us with information, site trips, visits. We had all the different people present their business and what ramifications that had. Like it was absolutely end to end. It was really good. And as I say, I think all the councillors jumped in and really embraced that.
And I think we'll see the results of that as we go forward. This year you could describe as a learning year. I think next year I think will be a very productive year based on that great induction process.
Yeah, for sure. And we're still learning as we go along.
How do you think the council could have done better this year?
Going back probably to the fact that most of us are new councillors, I think we're learning as we go along, and there's just times when you could ask better questions or different questions of the staff to come up with the information that you need. I think there's a few occasions when, as I say, it's a learning curve, I guess, but there's probably a few occasions where things might have got rushed a little bit, where if we'd have just been able to take some more time and get some more information, we could have made and none of it was major decisions, but I just think, and that's what I learned as we went along, you've got to really understand to ask the questions whilst you get the information presented to you in one format. The skill is to ask a question that's going to peel back the layers a little bit.
What was your toughest individual decision this year as a councillor?
For me, it goes back to, I think it was possibly our first council meeting, or very, very early in our term anyway. We had an approval for a construction of a boarding house in North Dubbo. And that was, whilst it was and still is the correct decision, once we based the facts, all the legislative requirements and all the boxes that had to be ticked, I just found it a tough decision because of the personal impact on some of the surrounding residents, etc. But I guess at the end of the day, we need to make the right decisions based on the right information. But personally, I just struggle with that a little bit.
And it was one of those, wasn't it, where you could see from both points of view, they both had good arguments, they were both logical and valid, and you want to be able to say yes to both sides of that argument. But as a councillor, you've got to make a decision. You've got to say yes and you've got to say no. And that was one of those tough ones. I agree. It was a really tough one.
Yeah. And I think also being so early in the piece, maybe 6 or 8 months down the track, we just would have had some more experience around filtering some of the emotional side of it out of it. You never lose sight of that, but I think being new. But anyway, that's part of the job, I guess. Yeah,
and we did defer that decision, I think, based on the fact that it was a new group of councillors and it was hard to get their head wrapped around all of that in such a short time frame. And I'm not the biggest fan of deferrals, but in that case, I think it was the right decision to go to a deferral. And then we had another month. We had that site meeting, as you'd remember, and then we could really get a full appreciation of it and then make, hopefully, the best decision.
Yep, that's what we have to do, I guess. Stick to the facts.
What have been your challenges or frustrations as a councillor in the last year?
I'd probably go back to a previous answer where things move quite slowly, which is so different to small, medium business where you, as we said, you can make decisions and have changes implemented overnight almost. But that's how it works. I also get a bit frustrated. I think sometimes you sort of you can see half-truths or sometimes absolute BS being peddled that gets people whipped into a frenzy and you look back and you think, well, no, that's not even right. That's not the facts. It's frustrating that tends to get people moving on the topic. And then the truth or the right actual facts will come out, but there's never any type of a retraction or sorry, I got that wrong. And I just think I guess sometimes people see councillors as sitting ducks to be able to throw as much mud as they want to, and that's fine. That's water off a duck's back to me.
Yeah, and councillors are all have the code of conduct to answer to if we behaved in that same way, but unfortunately some members of the public, it'd be nice to be able to have some code of conduct rules that they had to adhere to as well.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, that's the world we live in. That's social media, but it's the half. As I say, it's the half truths or the absolute bollocks that they sometimes respond to just to get the reaction. So that's fine.
What was the most surprising or unexpected aspect you found about council this year?
I had to say, as I said, I've never really got myself terribly involved at local government level in any way, and I'm really impressed with our CEO is a great leader, I believe, but also his key staff that we interact with on a regular basis, the directors and the management team, when they're doing their putting forward their arguments or their reports, etc. I just see. You can just see their passion and commitment to Dubbo and Dubbo regional councils and the role they're playing. It's just really obvious how committed they are, which is maybe I imagined beforehand that you get maybe the old-style public servant sort of mentality in your head, which I don't mean that derogatively in any way, but I've been absolutely impressed by the way that in general that the senior staff have got a genuine passion for what we're trying to achieve.
And obviously we look a lot better when we've got great professional staff who are implementing some of our ideas or even coming up with some of the ideas themselves. So it does help us do our job better, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we're relying on them to tell us what we need to know. in conjunction with, as I said before, that we've got to ask those questions to really make sure we get into the nitty gritty. But no, I've really enjoyed the year so far working with them guys.
How would you describe the public perception of council?
I think in general, it's people are probably still watching the new council and how it develops. I've got in private conversations, I've had a lot of compliments and people sort of along the lines of, "Oh, it's great to see some fresh blood in there and such a diverse group from different ethnic backgrounds, from different social backgrounds." Obviously, we've all got a different focus on what we see as the key part of the business, and people can see that that's starting to make a difference as you come through. But as I say before, some of the social media groups are probably not that. What would I say? They're just not that solid on backing the council in almost whatever happens. But that's okay. That's as I say. Let's get the right facts, and I think the personal attacks are never much fun to read, whether it's whoever it's directed at. And at the end of the day, a lot of our council decisions we make what it results in winners and losers. So you can never make everybody happy. The people that win are the happy ones, and the people that think we got it wrong are the unhappy ones. And if we make the decisions with all the available information we can and for the right reasons, well, that's life. That's just how it is. You don't always get to win every argument. What I don't understand, though, is some of these special interest groups that at times tend to be hostile and derogatory and almost abusive to the council in general or particular councillors. Those councillors are the very people that are going to be making decisions on what their causes are. So if they're passionate about a cause, surely it makes more sense to find a way to work in a conciliatory and a collaborative manner with respect to each other as you work through all the details. And that doesn't mean that they won't be holding true to their beliefs, but it just makes the whole process. You're going to be talking to people in a manner that if you believe in something so much, you get the opportunity to put your case forward rather than the hostile sort of route that tends to be the way of the world sometimes. Yeah.
What would you like to see council achieve in 2023?
I think our major item at the moment is we really need to get the master plan for the river right and encompass the residents, all the ideas, requests, special interest groups, just general, there's been a lot of collaboration already with public display. It's on display now for another couple of months, the draft of the plan. So I think, again, we just need to get all the available information and make the right decisions for all the right reasons and take in all those opinions and facts along the way that we get that right, because it's going to make a big difference to the world that we all inhabit, how we treat that space with the developments over in the western area, in the northwest zone. If we get the river corridor right, I think it's going to be an absolute showpiece for the town. And the other thing that I'd just like to explore more around understanding how the planning works around our green spaces and our tree canopies. Just at the end of the year, I've been looking into some of the other councils and how they treat that, how they legislate it, how they have targets for these sort of features in the community. And I just think as we're getting hotter and hotter, and Dubbo's one of the hottest places in the town in the country at the moment, we keep getting told that we're only going to get hotter. So I think it's really important that we plan that for future generations and make sure we don't, we leave a legacy that it's going to protect them.
What does the Dubbo region look like in 2050?
Yeah, this was a tough one. I think more of the same. Continue that year-on-year incremental growth that we've had. I think with all the development coming through with the res and the all the other infrastructure, we probably will get a couple of spikes in populations rather than the gradual increase that we've had for many, many years. But I think it will continue to remain vibrant. I sort of have a wish for, particularly on the Wellington end, that we can really take advantage of the town down there and the fact that it's on the highways and it's on the river and it's got all the beautiful architecture and all the rest of it. And if we can't just find a way to unlock prosperity more down in Wellington from a development point of view and build that back up to... I talked to a lot of people that grew up in Wellington, and it was a wonderful place to grow up, and I'm sure that we can get it back to that with the right planning and support.
Any other general comments?
Oh, no, I'd just like to probably thank yourself and the staff for my first year. It's been very, very helpful to have people that have been there before and done what they've done. Councillor Vicky Etheridge has also been very helpful. She's been a former councillor, so Murray in particular with the induction program. Yeah, so I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, it's been a very I've felt very much included in the whole council process, and looking forward to the next. What have we got? 2 years and 9 months or something?
Only a year and 9 months.
A year and 9 months. Okay, so let's see what we can make happen between now and then, and then the next election will be here in no time, no doubt. So.
Yeah, well done. We're just about at our 1 year anniversary as we're recording this, at our 1 year anniversary of our induction,
yes.
Our initial induction. So that's very exciting. So well done. I've enjoyed working with you this year. And I think next year, as I said before, we've really done that learning process this year. And hopefully next year there won't be floods or pandemics or bushfires or mice plagues to deal with. And hopefully we can really progress this region, because it is pretty exciting, I think, the things we've got. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Council is very good typically at that long-term planning. I think we've got lots of long-term strategic plans to get in place that will set this city up, this region up, for the next decade or more. So, yeah, it's been good working with you. I look forward to next year, Damien.
Thank you, Matt. All the best.
I'm here with the Deputy Mayor, Richard Ivey, today, and Richard was elected in the Wellington Ward in December 2021. Richard's another first-time councillor. Great to be seeing you today, Richard.
Thanks, Matt. Very good to be here.
We've got our 10 questions, as we've asked all councillors the same 10 questions. So I'll go through those, and I've got number 11 as well as a bonus question, which is any other topic you want to talk about. So question 1, Richard. What motivated you to stand for council elections in December 2021?
I've always been in favour of amalgamation. I think that the amalgamation between Dubbo and Wellington was in the best interest of both areas, but I think that the amalgamation process probably hadn't been as successful as I thought it could be, and so I thought, well, if I have that view, why don't I stand for council and see whether I can help the situation. I think there's real synergies between Dubbo as a city and the surrounding areas, the villages and rural areas, and I think both those areas of city and country can really benefit by amalgamation, and it hadn't been as good as it could have been, and so I thought, let's give it a go and see what I can do towards reversing that situation.
So it's interesting now, you've been there for a year. Actually, we're recording this on the 23rd of December, so it's a year today since our induction last year. So you've been there for a year now. How are your thoughts about amalgamation after being inside the machine for the last year?
I think it's been good. I think I'm getting more positive feedback now. Just again, I'm obviously more biased towards the Wellington area because that's who I talk to more people there than perhaps in the Dubbo area. But it does seem to be a much greater acceptance of the benefits of amalgamation amongst Wellingtonians, and I think that's they do think that they've perhaps got a voice. I have tried to be out there amongst them and really listening to what the issues are and trying to pass them through council, and I think that is being appreciated, and so that there is I think within that old Wellington LGA more of an awareness of the benefits of Dubbo and more an awareness that perhaps they do have a voice and are being listened to.
How would you describe your most enjoyable aspect of being a councillor?
The most enjoyable aspect, I think, is being part of the council team. I think the group of councillors we've got, I find them very interesting. I find them very good to work with. I think there's some pretty basic different philosophies between us, so it's not as if we are all thinking necessarily along the same lines, but there is a great camaraderie, if you like, amongst the group that thinks that, look, we are here to do the best for the community. And as I say, we may have different views on how that can be accomplished, but it's just great to be part of a team that thinks of itself as a team. And so I think that's been one of the best aspects of being part of this council, is that you really think that you are working with people who've got a common interest and a common respect, and that's really good.
And it's a bit like society. You've got people with different interests and focus on different things, and you want that diversity on council. And that's the important thing. I think the most successful councils I've seen or been involved with have that focus on great outcomes for the community. And they might approach it differently, but they want those great outcomes. When I think councils fail is when people have the wrong, and I'm going to say the word wrong, maybe I'm being too harsh, but the different agendas rather than good community outcomes. I think that's when councils don't work as successfully. Yes.
And look, I think that diversity of agendas, if you like, that leads to difference of ideas and an expansion of what council can accomplish. And so that's a good thing, but provided people take it as it is and work with it and realise that ultimately there's got to be one decision, and that's got to be put out to the community, and it's got to be for the community's best interest. And even if you don't believe in that yourself, if it's best for the community, that's fine.
What are council's greatest achievements this year?
I think the greatest achievements have been the seamless transition from the old council now, and that seamless transition has involved really 9 or 8 councillors who didn't have any experience in local government before, in the sense of being a member of a council, and the fact that this council within 12 months has really done what it's done, and that it has achieved lots of good things, but it's done that with a council who were relatively inexperienced. They were inexperienced in local government work, but I think the beauty of this council is that all members of the council have got fantastic life skills. They've got business skills, they've got financial skills, they've got community skills, and they seem to have brought those skills into council and have integrated them well, again, as part of a team.
And there was a huge amount of induction and training at the very beginning. And I think that probably helped set the team up to take those skills, those life skills, those external skills, and understand the knowledge of local government to then transition those two together.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and I think the staff, particularly the CEO, did a very good job in that. Yes, there was a great learning curve for new councillors, but we all had a very good appetite to take that learning on, and I think that was really fed by the CEO and by the staff generally. I think that induction and bringing people up to speed has worked very well.
How do you think that council could have done better this year?
I think that council perhaps could have harnessed the community involvement a little bit more. Again, perhaps looking at it from a Wellington perspective, I think that, again, we've got some fantastic people in the community, and I do sometimes think that me or council generally aren't utilising some of those skills as well as we could, because people generally, they've got some good ideas, and just being able to, again, garner those ideas and turn them into something that's for the community benefit, I think we can work on that a little bit more.
So probably the 16 committees that we form, the community committees, is a step in the right direction, but it's one thing having the committees, isn't it? The next thing is actually making sure they meet regularly, we take that information, we take the energy and enthusiasm and then turn that into great outcomes for council.
Absolutely, and there's two councils that I'm two committees that I'm closely involved in, and that's the Villages Committee and the Wellington Town Committee. Look, the Wellington Town Committee, I think, has functioned very, very well. I think it's got really got great potential to achieve some things for the community. The Villages Committee perhaps hasn't been quite so successful, so I think there's two committees. One's been very good. The other one perhaps could be a bit better. So I think there's things to work on there.
Yeah, and that's good. And if there's things to work on, we can work on those, and we can acknowledge that there's ways to do things better. But I think the idea of keeping the community involved and tapping that enthusiasm. We've got 10 enthusiastic councillors, but we could have 10,000 enthusiastic people involved in various things, so take advantage of that.
Yes.
What was your toughest individual decision this year as a councillor?
I don't think there was any tough decision for me individually, in the sense that I could make a decision on most things fairly easily. I think I was able to do the research and form my opinion. So the actual decision-making process, as far as I was concerned, wasn't particularly complicated. I found it very good, and it wasn't particularly tough. But having said that, of course, my decisions, my opinions didn't always accord with the majority of council. So I think that's... But I don't mind that, and I don't regard that, therefore, as a tough decision. I mean, I was happy with the decision that I made, and in each case, I must admit, I still think I was right, but it didn't go with the council, and I'm happy with that. But so no, I don't think there's actually been any tough decision as such. I think it was the whole decision-making process has been pretty well defined and quite easy.
What have been your challenges or frustrations as a councillor in the last year?
The main frustration is just knowing what the limitations of a councillor are, what they are. I've worked in business over the years. I've largely run my own business. I made the decisions and I stuck by the outcome of those decisions, and that's not how a council works. It's much more of a large scale committee orientated business. Their decision making is much more convoluted. It hopefully is perhaps ends up with a better decision, but it's just, I find it a little bit frustrating at times how long it takes to get that decision and what hoops you've got to jump through to make that happen. So I found that, I don't know whether frustrating is quite the right word, but it's been, I mean, I knew the council was a large organisation. I knew the decision-making process was much more complicated, but I perhaps didn't appreciate to exactly the large extent that happened, and so that's been a little bit frustrating, but it's been a good learning curve for me.
And sometimes you don't necessarily get better decisions. You might get the same decision you were going to make, but I found, similar to you back when I first got on council, that, it's taking so long. I know this is a great thing. We should just go and do it, but part of the process, I believe, is getting the community along for the ride.
You've got to get ownership of it. That's right. You can sit there and just make a blanket decision, and that's fine. But if the community doesn't realise why that decision was made, or doesn't feel that it was really part of it, and the community can be part of that decision making through its inputs into the councillors or via the councillors, then. But if the community doesn't gain that sense of ownership, I don't think the decision making process has been successful.
What was the most surprising or unexpected aspect you found about council this year?
Yeah, it probably follows on from what I said in the answer to the last question, is that just the time taken to get results. You put in a request for information or a suggestion as to what might be made, or even a notice of motion that gets debated and voted upon. But of course, just the time taken for that to produce an effect is, I found, quite surprising, and I think it perhaps could be a little bit better than it is.
Even one of the other interesting things is that we might have, for example, a price rise at the Wellington Caves. Well, if you own that business, you decide maybe at the end of a financial year to put the prices up, or maybe market conditions change, so you might change that price and it might come into effect immediately. But when we do things through council with our business units, we might have a price change and then we put it out on public consultation for maybe 28 days and then it comes back to another council meeting. So just even things like that seem like simple, almost operational issues seem to take a long time. And again, I understand it. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's not wrong, right or indifferent. It's just the way it is. You almost have to realign your time frames to do things, don't you?
Absolutely. There's a classic example of that just yesterday. We had the meeting last night, the committee to organise Australia Day celebrations in Wellington, and on the 26th the pool will be open and it'll be free of charge, and that's fine. And someone said, well, what about the caves? Can we actually have free entry at the caves on Australia Day? No, we can't. The free entry into the pool, that's okay because that's in the budget. But we would have to have a council decision to say that we wouldn't charge to go into the caves on Australia Day, and obviously that won't be possible between now and the 26th of January. So, yeah, you're quite right. It's you can't just make a snap decision.
No, that's right. How would you describe the public perception of council?
Yeah, that's a difficult one in some ways. Look, we obviously get feedback all the time from the public. The negative voices are always the loudest and the most vocal and the most frequent. But I suspect that really they aren't necessarily representative of a broad scale of the community. And I get enough good comments amongst the sprays that some of the negative comments are. I get enough good comments to realise that people are appreciative of what this council is doing, and that yes, a lot of people realise that we are working under difficult circumstances. You know, the high rainfall and the floods and the damage to infrastructure, roads and bridges and causeways. People are realising that is not something that council can fix immediately, and they are appreciative, though, of the efforts that council is making. And as I say, I'm getting enough good comments to think that, yes, I think the perception amongst the public of this current council is good. It's probably, I would say, 6 or 7 out of 10, and I think it would be great to be 8 or 9 out of 10. So I think that's something we can work on for the next couple of years.
What would you like to see council achieve in 2023?
I would love to see council get a better deal out of the renewable energy sector for this community. Now, I know a lot of the deal that renewables are providing into the community, the guidelines are set by the state government and not necessarily the local government. But we just look at what's happening amongst the renewable development in our area, and it's fantastic. We really are seeing major development work. We're seeing solar farms, wind farms with some of the add-ons, battery storage and things like that. So that really is changing, and it's fantastic what's going on within our community. But I just think that the community isn't getting enough out of it. I mean, the planning agreements now, the draft planning agreements are saying that renewables proponents will have to put in 1% of the capital value into community benefits. 1%. You know, 1% of 99 other bits of it don't go to the local community. The community gets 1% for providing the infrastructure to enable this whole energy transition to take place. And I just don't think that 1% into the community that's providing the actual resources or the land and the infrastructure is enough. But I know I'm hitting my head against a brick wall there, but I think it should still be spoken of and tried to push for. So I'd like to see, if we could, a much better deal for the community from the proponents of renewable energy development.
And to clarify that for listeners, that 1%, or even the renewable energy benefit framework, we talked about 1.5%, but it is a matter of getting that out of the proponents. So we can put 20% there if we like, but getting it out of them is a challenge. But the way that would work, again, just to explain to listeners, is that the capital cost of a project, for example, if it was a $100 million project, if we had a deal that gave us 1%, it would be $1 million, but that would be over the life of the project. So it wouldn't be $1 million to the community up front as part of the construction. It would be over the next 20 years, say, or 25 years of that project, that $1 million, the 1%, would come into the community over that time frame. So it gives you a bit of an idea, as you say, when these projects are large projects, talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, large upfront capital intensive projects at the beginning, then the community, and again, that's if we do get the 1.5%, if it's a solar farm, there's no compulsion to give anything at all. And we've seen that already. That's what we're working towards. But I agree with you. It would be nice to see all the different things that are going to be provided from the Budangra community, the Wellington community, as part of the renewable energy zone, getting benefits to the local community. I think a really important aspect of that.
I mean, the renewables are here to save the planet. We were saying that we've got to move away from fossil fuels and move towards renewable energy is the go, and that's absolutely, I agree with that. All I say is that the communities which are enabling that to happen are not getting a good enough deal out of it.
What does the Dubbo region look like in 2050?
I think the potential in the future looks fantastic. We're going to see further development of agricultural industries. I think the food security and our advantages, natural advantages of food production will go on into the future and perhaps even be increased. Area is a great service centre, so that for providing services from health and education, financial services, that will go on increasing. We've got some fantastic sort of mining development, which will provide extra money into the community. And so they will go on better than they've been before. And then throw in what we've just talked about, the renewable sector. That is going to change society incredibly, and we are right at the centre of it. And so it is fantastic that we are able to use that renewable to help stimulate and help develop this community in future. We've got, though, to get some more downstream benefits from those renewables. It's one thing just to have the solar panels and the wind farms generating electricity that gets sent down the wire to into Sydney or some of the industrial areas. What we need out here is some downstream benefits and downstream flow-on effects from those renewables, things like hydrogen generation, perhaps even alternative power generation from hydrogen-fired power station, better battery storage, perhaps manufacturing of some of the components for renewables, the solar panels, the wind farm, the vanes. There's a whole lot of areas that we should be able to develop because we've got renewables here. And if we can just do that over the next 10 or 20 years, this whole area is going to look fantastic. And 2050 is a very exciting time. And if we can just do that and perhaps have more tree cover, that'll be great too.
It does sound like an exciting region to be part of, doesn't it?
Oh, it is absolutely. I mean, we've got really any amount of land, sensibly used. We've got any amount of water. We've got fantastic air quality. We can got fantastic resources to grow agricultural produce. We've got some good, exciting mining developments. I mean, gosh, we've got really we're centrally located. It's not, it's from Melbourne to Brisbane to Newcastle to Canberra to Sydney. It's just a fantastic area to be in.
Open mic time. Any other general comments?
Yes, I'd like to see more constructive comments from the community back to the councillors. As I mentioned before, we certainly got quite rightly we get lots of feedback, and some of it's not too complimentary, but some of it is, I think, is just unnecessarily destructive. It's not constructive, and I just think that we should be able to work towards better harmony within the community, towards a realisation that we're all in this together. We really are trying to develop things for the common good, and I just think that perhaps some members of the community could appreciate that and just be a little bit more constructive in what they provide as feedback to council.
Well, thanks for your time, Richard. I've actually really appreciated your efforts as Deputy Mayor this year. You've filled in various things I haven't been able to make it to, so I really appreciate your efforts there and appreciate your support. And I think you've had a fantastic year. Again, first year in, it's always a tough gig to come in blind and start a whole new process and with a whole new organisation that you haven't been inside before. So that's a tough challenge for anyone. So I think you've done a fantastic job this year. And I really look forward to working with you next year.
No, thanks, Matt. And look, congratulations to you too. I think you're absolutely incredible. The work that you put in and the benefits and the ideas that you promote are just really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time as Deputy Mayor. I think perhaps I'll look back and yes, there may be some things that I could have done a little bit better, but I suppose it's quite good to look back and say, well, I don't think we've actually had a major mistake or a major problem, and sort of really to be able to come in and hit the ground running and pick up the things that have got to be developed and do that without any major disruption or interruption is perhaps, yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed gaining further insight into the minds of our councillors related to activities in 2022 with a view to the future as well. We have a diverse group of councillors and we are working very well together as a team. Continue to provide feedback by sending emails to mayor@dubbo.com and please follow or subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. Until next week.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.